Why do you believe the Father is just a spirit and not a body?
Because John 4:24 says God is spirit.
So taking into context that conversation in John,
Yes.
the Lord is speaking to the woman at the well,
Yes.
Samaritan woman, and they're talking about worshiping God.
Yes.
And she's like, I can't worship God because I can't go to Jerusalem to the temple to
That's
worship, as the Pharisees said you have to do. And he's like, God is spirit. You can worship God in spirit. But I was curious about this passage, and I did look up the Greek of it.
Yes.
And the claims that I have here, so God is spirit, is pneuma hotheos.
Yes, there is no verb. And it's
Right.
It's a
no
predicate
article,
that
correct.
appears
Predicate
before the noun.
nominative.
Yeah.
Essentially signaling that God is spirit is a qualitative term.
Nature. That's exactly the
Same
point.
thing as saying God is love, God is truth,
Amen.
God is spirit. So I guess we don't necessarily agree that that means that it's saying God is literally just a spirit.
Like
No, even when you say just, it doesn't have to be just a spirit, but you said qualitative.
Uh-huh.
The qualitative use of the predicate nominative stresses the qualities, the characteristics, or essence of a thing.
Sure.
So it's saying his nature is spirit.
Can we also say that our nature is spiritual? Yeah, what our bodies occupy.
You said spiritual. If I say you are spirit, that'd be incomplete because you're not just spirit. Angels are spirits, but you're more than a spirit.
I guess it depends, right? Because if our spirit left our body, what would remain?
Yes, but you would be an incomplete human. That's why we believe in the resurrection, because God doesn't leave you as in this embodied spirit. So your nature isn't just spirit, isn't just flesh. You're an embodied spirit. So to say you're spirit, you'd have to qualify it, because the same Bible says you're also flesh. Flesh gives birth to flesh, right?
Now, keep in mind, the verse, what he pointed out is it doesn't say God is a spirit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is no indefinite article in the Greek. I mean, the context sometimes amended, sometimes it doesn't. Contextually, you'd have to argue, is it talking about he's one among many spirits, or is he a unique type of spirit? Because angels are spirits, but they're not spirits like God.
Let's say it says God is a spirit.
Yes.
How can we assume that's mutually exclusive to say, therefore, he doesn't have a body? Why can't he have both?
Yeah, because it doesn't say he's flesh, just like says Jesus. But Hebrews 1:7, angels are spirits. He makes his angels spirits. The word is spirit. So who would those angels be to you?
So it sounds like these are glorified beings. Maybe they are, either they're people who were already passed away, that were righteous, were awaiting their resurrection.
They don't have a flesh, though?
Well, if you haven't been resurrected, they don't have flesh yet.
So here you're admitting that these spirits, the term spirits, even though it doesn't say that they don't have flesh, you do still agree it doesn't need to say that to imply they're not flesh, right?
Well, in this case, you're right. But
exactly, just in John 4:24. So then the Christian would say, now that we've agreed, the text doesn't need to say he doesn't have flesh for that to be the natural reading. For you then to show that he's more than spirit, you'd have to show the Father is flesh.
The Trinitarian understanding of oneness is that they are three personages, distinct, but they are one being.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas John 17 seems to be alluding to the fact that Jesus has an understanding of his nature with the Father as one, and is praying that his disciples be one as they are. Not suggesting, I think it'd be illogical to suggest that he prays the disciples all become one being. They all kind of mush themselves together into one being, right? But rather they become one in purpose, mission, passion, unity. So I guess our claim is that John 17 supports the idea of a godhood, separate, distinct beings, but perfectly unified as one in purpose. So I guess how would you combat the idea that John 17 seems to clearly describe oneness, doesn't mean one being. Yeah. It means three perfectly unified.
Yeah, well, the reason why a Trinitarian doesn't come to that conclusion is because even though there's an analogy, there's not exact correspondence between the creature and the creator. Because remember, we have a different view of creation. So you're asking me, because the Bible tells us God is unlike anything. There's nothing comparable to God. And the way he exists is in a complete different manner the way creatures exist. Even though there is a correspondence in some sense, our unity reflects God's unity. It cannot be identical by virtue of the fact that even in that prayer, the Father that he's speaking to, our view, I know you believe he has flesh, he's not a personage of flesh, so that whatever that oneness is cannot be identical to Christians who are all humans with flesh bodies, the way they become one. So there's going to be a breakdown in these statements because there's not an exact one-to-one correspondence. God is not identical to flesh or creatures. Creatures are not identical to God. So that would be the first step. Second step, the reason why we say being is because we're told Yahweh alone. There is no other Yahweh. There's not a third Yahweh or a fourth Yahweh or a fifth Yahweh. Nehemiah 9:6 says, you are Yahweh alone. Isaiah 37:20, you are Yahweh alone.
Yeah, we believe it.
If there's only one Yahweh, and he is the true God, Jeremiah 10:10, 2 Chronicles 15:3. Now we have to square that off with, well, hold on. You know Jesus is Yahweh. I know you agree with that too, right? You agree he's Yahweh. So if there's only one Yahweh, it uses the word alone, not just one, because I know that word can be open interpretation. For a complex unity, it's alone, Nehemiah 9:6, Isaiah 37:20. And yet Jesus is that Yahweh, and the Father's only true God. But to be the only true God, you must be Yahweh. Then how many beings can Yahweh be?
The Trinitarian understanding of oneness is that they are three
or distinct,
personages, distinct, but they are one being.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas John 17 seems to be alluding to the fact that Jesus has an understanding of his nature with the Father as one, and is praying that his disciples be one as they are. Not suggesting, I think it'd be illogical to suggest that he prays the disciples all become one being. They all kind of mush themselves together into one being, right? But rather they become one in purpose, mission, passion, unity. So I guess our claim is that John 17 supports the idea of a godhood, separate, distinct beings, but perfectly unified as one in purpose. So I guess how would you combat the idea that John 17 seems to clearly describe oneness doesn't mean one being?
Yeah.
It means three perfectly unified.
Yeah, well, the reason why a Trinitarian doesn't come to that conclusion is because even though there's an analogy, there's not exact correspondence between the creature and the creator. Because remember, we have a different view of creation. So you're asking me, because the Bible tells us God is unlike anything, there's nothing comparable to God, and the way he exists is in a complete different manner the way creatures exist. Even though there is a correspondence in some sense, our unity reflects God's unity, it cannot be identical by virtue of the fact that even in that prayer, the Father that he's speaking to, our view, I know you believe he has flesh, he's not a personage of flesh, so that whatever that oneness is cannot be identical to Christians who are all humans with flesh bodies, the way they become one. So there's going to be a breakdown in these statements because there's not an exact one-to-one correspondence. God is not identical to flesh or creatures. Creatures are not identical to God. So that would be the first step. Second step, the reason why we say being is because we're told Yahweh alone. There is no other Yahweh. There's not a third Yahweh or a fourth Yahweh or a fifth Yahweh. Nehemiah 9:6 says, you are Yahweh alone. Isaiah 37:20, you are Yahweh alone.
Yeah, we believe you.
If there's only one Yahweh, and he is the true God, Jeremiah 10:10, 2 Chronicles 15:3. Now we have to square that off with, well, hold on. We know Jesus is Yahweh. So if Jesus is Yahweh, and we're told in Nehemiah 9:6, you can open up, look at it, it doesn't just say one, Yahweh alone. So there is no other except one Yahweh, Yahweh alone. And Isaiah 37:20 says that. And yet Yahweh is the true God, Jeremiah 10:10, 2 Chronicles 15:3. But then I'm told the Father is the only true God. But the only way you can be the only true God is to be Yahweh. But the Father is not the Son. So if there's only one Yahweh, it uses the word alone, not just one, because I know that word can be open interpretation. For a complex unity, it's alone, Nehemiah 9:6, Isaiah 37:20. And yet Jesus is that Yahweh, and the Father is the only true God. But to be the only true God, you must be Yahweh. And how many beings can Yahweh be?
Okay, so imagine you have a device in front of you with a button.
Yes.
And this button, if you push it, forms a spirit into existence. You have a monitor in front of you that shows you this person that will be created if you push that button. You can see, which we both agree, that a person will end up in their eternal destination of heaven or hell as by their own free will and choice. It's not Calvinism, right? So they choose this, and you can see where they're going to end up going. If you see that this person ends up going to hell, do you still push the button?
The problem is what you're saying, pushing the button. Once God creates the first couple, if you want him not to push the button and that prevent that child from being conceived, then that means you want God to intervene to a greater extent where he limits and hinders, let's say, the choice of parents to have children, right? So either God can stop that conception, which is what you would think is more ethical, and then he intervenes and overrides that act and the result of it, or knowing that and yet still not preventing them from coming together to conceive that child and letting that child come into being. There's the only two options that God has, right?
No, that's a false dilemma fallacy. There's
Well,
one
how many
more
options
option.
Okay, what's the other option?
Another option is that instead of creating this spirit who will end up choosing hell, he creates a spirit that doesn't choose hell.
Yeah, but then that means you're now having God to determine which spirits will come into being.
Yes.
So that's already preordained. Only righteous beings come into being. So let's go take with Adam and Eve. If I follow your logic, he should not have created Adam and Eve's spirit to then choose to rebel and bring evil into the world. He should have just created righteous spirits that would have chose and there'd be no sin. If God is loving, and we know that God is defined love according to the scripture, as something that you don't compel someone to respond to, because that would be spiritual molestation. Okay, so if we assume that God now, in order to create sentient beings who truly reciprocate to his love, truly, not being programmed to think they are, but their design, they don't know their design, but God would know that he designed them to think they're making a choice, when in reality they're programmed like a robot to respond. That means God is deceiving them. But if I believe God, and take him at his word, that God cannot deceive, and he's faithful to himself, that's not an option for the God of the Bible. So then there's another option, right? What the option would be, I can choose not to create, or I can choose to create, but I know the moment I create, and I create male and female, and I place them in a situation to give them the opportunity to truly respond in love and not feel coerced, because that wouldn't be love, they're going to mess it up. So I either don't create, or I do create. Well, obviously, he chose to create, and this is the world we live in.
Yes.
So for love to be true, there is no other world, from my perspective. I'm not saying here because you have another authority. God could have created but this one.
Okay, so I guess that doesn't really answer my question about if he knows they're going to choose hell, but he creates them anyway, knowing that hell is, I think how you might define it, as eternal conscious torment, which is not our definition of hell.
Yeah, you're asking too many questions.
So he still creates them anyway, knowing that's where they're going to be.
Yeah, but that actually answered your question if you heard what I said, because the only option then would be to then intervene and override every human being that would come into the world through an act of procreation and only choose the righteous among them. So that means he's already pre-programming the script.
Yeah, so if he were to only choose to create righteous spirits, then he would send nobody to eternal conscious torment.
Then we go back to Adam and Eve. Then do you believe that Adam and Eve sinned?
I believe they transgressed.
Okay, well, the transgression is to break the law. Sin is to break the law. So then that means, if I follow your logic to its conclusion, because I'm arguing for my paradigm, you're asking me, then God should never have created Adam and Eve to sin. He should have created them righteous.
Don't you believe in repentance?
Say it again?
Don't you believe in repentance?
Okay, so then don't you believe that even though God knows those people that come into the world, who to no fault of his own choose not to repent, they get their just desserts?
I believe that God honors their free will in allowing them to choose hell, but he could have not chosen them because it would have been better for them.
He could have chosen Adam and Eve to have been righteous from the get-go and not bring this problem into the world.
Well, that would be controlling their free will, but think about Judas, for example.
No, I'm agreeing with you, thank you.
Yeah, so when Jesus said about Judas, he said it would have been better for him had he not been born. Not it would have been better for all of us. For his existence, his experience.
And God still brought him into being?
He still brought him into being.
And it's where I'm trying to say, so you agree with that story?
Yeah, it would have been better for Judas had he not been born.
But you agree that even though it's better, God chose what was worse for him?
Because we have a different definition of hell than you.
Even if it's annihilation. Even if it's annihilation. Why create someone who desires to live and then alienate them out of existence? Why not just not create them?
According to your theology, it would be more loving to not create them.
But you gave me the example and you agreed with it. So would have been better for God not to have created him?
In your theology.
What about your theology?
In my theology, it would have been better that he did create Judas.
Why?
Because first of all, he didn't create his spirit in the first place. He gave consent. Judas
But he knew he would come into the flesh and sin?
I don't know if Judas had that foreknowledge, but I know God did.
That's what I'm saying. So why send him into the flesh?
Because we don't believe hell is eternal conscious torment.
That's not my objection. Even if it's annihilation, you're not escaping the very dilemma you created for me. You just said God knew this soul he didn't create would come and mess things up, even though it would be better for that soul not to be born. And he still sent that soul anyway?
Allow me to maybe make your point.
You get my point?
Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think your point is if the Trinity creates spirits, which you've said you're not totally sure how that works, right? But if the Trinity creates spirits and God knowingly creates a spirit knowing that they're going to go to hell, that can't be a good God. Whereas our position is...
According to, though, he's not a good God. You're saying internal creed, doesn't
according to Jesus Christ, because he said it would have been better for him had he not been born.
Okay, but brother, you just go to the same Bible that says that God did create spirits, and some spirits will go into everlasting destruction.
So formed could be not create out of nothing, right?
But formed out of what?
Intelligence.
What intelligence? Where? Where does the text say that?
Well, this is...
I'm not trying to be argumentative because just like when God formed the body of Adam from dust, you're not making your case, you're making my case because that spirit can be formed at conception. So it's not saying... Yes, because Zechariah 12:1, he's saying form doesn't mean, but it doesn't mean a pre-existent spirit. It means the same thing as forming from the dust of the body so that spirit can be formed when the sperm and the egg conceive. It's still coming into being at that moment.
So is your belief that there are some spirits that pre-existed and some spirits that did not? Only angels pre-existed.
We have a different... But I don't want to go far,
we have a different theology.
Because I want to answer the question. I don't want you to think I'm skirting it. Even if I go with your definition, you're telling us that your system is better only because hell is not eternal.
And because spirits are eternal.
But the problem is...
But wait, I never said hell is not eternal.
Well, what do you mean eternal? That the consequences are...
We don't believe that hell consists of eternal conscious torment.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I meant eternal. So because I'm going by what you're saying eternal conscious, that's why I'm saying eternal. When people think of hell, they're talking about torment. Typically, unless you redefine it. I'm going by that definition.
Right.
But you did say, I'm listening to you. This soul that he had no creation, he didn't create. I want to choose the words correctly. He still knew he's going to enter the flesh and mess things up. And it would be better for him not to go into flesh. And he sends him anyway. Why? Don't talk about the annihilation part. Explain to me, why then did he do something worse for Judas and not spare him from doing something worse and give him what was better, even according to your worldview?
Yeah. So in my reasoning, the reason why I think it was still loving for God to do this is because I don't have the same concept of hell as you. So we keep going to hell. Yeah.
You know, there are Christians who believe in annihilationism. So then they'll say, hey, checkmate. They don't suffer forever. They're wiped out of existence. So now your argument has no power. That's why I say put the annihilation part aside. Because even people who have consciousness don't want to cease to be. Whatever view of hell you have, when someone is alive, they don't want to go into non-existence. Yes, I can agree with you on a theoretical level. Being wiped out of existence would seem, to those who have a different understanding, because again, I'm trying to be fair to Christians out there who do hold to eternal conscious torment. And traditionally, that's the view of the ancient churches. Even if I go with annihilationism, there is no living being that wants to cease to exist.
Right.
Because God put eternity in their hearts, Ecclesiastes. But if I can finish the point.
Yeah.
So you're saying it would be better for Judas not to have come in the flesh and be wiped out. But God then gave him what is worse. So how do you escape your dilemma?
Because Judas chose before he was born.
But he knew he's going to choose, right?
The Father knew what Judas was going to choose? Yes, but the Father doesn't control our free will.
Oh, so we're back to my argument. Because of the free will argument, for your view to work, God has to intervene and choose which soul to create at conception, and he can only create righteous souls. Then we go back to my first point. Why not then send righteous souls into the garden as opposed to souls that he knew were going to mess things up?
We don't think Adam and Eve messed anything up.
Oh, you don't?
No.
All right, interesting. So this is God's plan?
Yes.
To sin?
Yeah, it says so in 2
But you're
chapter 2.
saying, so you're sure you're not a Calvinist?
How is that Calvinist?
Because God predetermined even the evil they would do for a greater good.
I think he foreknew what they were going to do.
No, I'm saying, yeah, but you're saying that God foreknew and wanted it to happen, right?
Yeah, maybe not in the way it went down.
Okay, right. Yeah. Well, you see, there's tension in all views. Yeah. Sure. But we went far adrift from the Trinity, by the way.
We did. Maybe to bring it back a little bit. In your understanding, what is the purpose of God creating us? What's the end goal?
God out of love created.
Really quick.
What?
We're going to cut this part, but
What happened?
we want you guys to start making like what your point is.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, right now they're just asking you questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want them to start making a point.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, it's okay. I want them to ask me this question. So
Yeah, they can ask a question, but at some point we got to understand what is your point.
Do you want me to re-ask the question?
I'd rather you get to the point, but
yeah,
if
the
you want
point
to
is he wants to ask me, God created.
We make the
yeah,
assertion and then we debate it.
Yeah, the Trinity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you also said
He's bringing it back to the Trinity.
yeah, and then your beginning said that the Trinity was unbiblical. So like, let's try to get to these.
That's where you're getting me to, right? So that's what you're asking me.
We can get there. Yeah.
I don't, because I don't.
Yeah, no,
Is that what the question is going to lead to the Trinity?
I can lead it there. I will lead it there. How about that? Do you want me to re-ask it though, just for the break? Okay. So in your understanding, what is the purpose of God creating us? What's the end goal?
Well, the Bible says God is love. We were created out of love so that we can enjoy God and know him. But that's going back to what I was saying about the nature of love itself.
Okay.
It can't be compelled. That would be spiritual molestation.
Sure. So, and then what you'll read in the Pearl of Great Price, that it's God the Father essentially saying, this is my work and my glory to bring about the immortality and eternal life of man. And so I think we can agree on God's purposes.
So that's what I was saying. When God wants a soul to live forever, then that soul innately has a desire to live forever.
Yeah.
But when the soul knows it's going to be wiped out, that too is hurt. It may not be as bad as eternal conscious torment. That's what I'm trying to get at. Even there, in your understanding, no soul wants to cease to be wiped out of existence.
Which we don't believe, by the way.
But so what happens to people now? I don't want to change the topic. What happens to people now? I mean, what's your concept of hell?
Well, we believe in three heavens and an outer darkness.
Still, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yeah, we believe that there's one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars.
1 Corinthians 15, you're quoting us?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's a place called outer darkness. So those who are called sons of perdition go to outer darkness. It's those that attain a perfect knowledge of truth and still deny, ultimately denying.
Oh, so you hold to universalism?
No.
Oh, okay. So
for
what happens to the
example,
people in outer darkness?
Cain, for example.
Yes.
We believe he is not going to any of the three heavens.
Where's he going?
Outer darkness. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of revelations about it, so we can't expound a lot about what that place entails.
Can it be forever?
Yes, we believe it is forever.
So you're back to the same dilemma you put me
But
in.
we don't believe it's conscious torment.
If it's outer darkness, is he conscious?
Yeah, he's conscious, but we
But
don't
outer
believe
darkness is where they weep and gnash their teeth.
Figuratively.
12. Whatever it's figurative, it's not a pleasant experience. So you just admit, I want it on record, that you don't know enough about outer darkness to say it's not forever, right?
Well, I guess I would say it is forever. Yeah.
Here, let me ask.
Now we're back to, now I'm going to put you in that dilemma.
Let me tie up. Can I tie up the dilemma and move forward with what we were going with too? Because here's the ultimate.
Yeah,
point.
anyway, I don't want to put, I was just
Of
kidding.
course.
We can go back to the
Tell me if I'm wrong. Ultimately, you're saying that the Trinity, or the idea of the Trinity, is evil because you're creating something that you know will go to hell
Yes.
and suffer eternally. Our viewpoint is that we are uncreated. We're co-eternal with the Father.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to because
to make a long
Then how's
story
your
short,
father though? I don't need to change it because you keep bringing how's he your father then if he has no direct result in being your life giver?
Great question. To make long story short, and this isn't in the Bible, this is from other
Yes,
authorities.
I want to hear your story.
We existed as what we call intelligences. It's the purest form of what we are as existing beings. And God the Father organized us as these intelligences. You could call it an adoption of sorts, and provided what we call the plan of salvation, the opportunity to learn, grow, and become more like Him. Okay? So He took us as intelligences, provided spirit bodies, and eventually provided this earth for us to come live on, gain physical bodies like we believe He has, progress through life, learn, grow, etc., die, and we can talk about what happens after death. So what would you say are the main differences between the Trinity and our belief of the Godhead? Or
Well, this is where I'm getting confused because I'm realizing that, and I don't say Mormon to disrespect you, right? Because I know you don't like that, because it's easy. It's for me to just say Church of Jesus Christ. That's a long sentence. My throat is tired, so you don't mind if I say that, right?
I don't. Okay.
From what I've read from the Book of Mormon, that concept of God, if a Christian picked up the Book of Mormon, put it this way, when I say Christian meaning Trinitarian.
Yeah.
let me be read it, he would pretty much say, man, it sounds like the Trinity. There may be statements in it that can be understood modalistically, like Jesus saying, I am the Father and the Son.
Like what Isaiah said about Jesus
Isaiah
being
9:6,
the
eternal Father. I know it. Brother, I deal with modalists all the time. I know what the Abiyad means, man. Shoot. But yeah. But coming to that issue, if I just go to the Book of Mormon, I'll say, it's virtually identical. But what I'm finding now is that as time went on, views have changed. So that when I tell someone, hey, they'll say, no, we don't believe that. That was past, but we are not, bound to statements of the past. Like, for example, I have read, God the Father is a man who became God. You have a heavenly mother, right? And she's your heavenly mother because you come from her. Now, to us, that's completely foreign. But then if I say that, someone say, well, that's speculative. We may not believe it. So you would have to tell me what you believe for me to deal with your argument, not someone else in the past. Because I went to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. I have an article where it says Heavenly Mother, right? Yep. And that Yahweh or Jehovah, he's the one who becomes Jesus, and he's Lucifer's older brother. But then in some of the debates, as you know what I'm talking about, we won't mention names, right?
Okay.
You see there's a distance from that. They go, well, we're not obligated to believe that. In fact, there's one gentleman who's very famous that, I don't want to mention names. I said on one interview, it looks like he has a toupee. You know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
Okay. He says, and why are you laughing, bro? I don't want to give names, man. He says that we're not under any obligation to affirm those things.
Okay.
So that's why I want to know, you articulate what you believe.
Well, we believe in things that are canonized in doctrine. So the
tell us
doctrine,
what it is.
We believe that Heavenly Mother is doctrine.
Oh, so you do believe in it?
Yeah. So let's take, for example, Jesus, in one of our revelations, it says that whether by my own voice or by the voice of my servants, it's the same. And I interpret that to be the unanimous voice of the apostles, who all affirmed the proclamations in our church, which includes the doctrine of Heavenly Mother.
Doctrine of who?
Heavenly Mother.
Okay, so you do believe in Heavenly Mother.
Elohim, plural, I believe is referring to the Father and the Mother. And every time we refer to the Father, it's implied the Father and Mother.
So it includes her.
I believe that they're perfectly unified in the Godhead.
So you do believe that?
Yeah.
Because I know at
belief.
one time, I know it changed. I'm just saying. Elohim was the name for the Father, right? And Yahweh was the name for Jesus,
I
right?
think that was a layman understanding.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
I want to be fair to you guys. I want you, just like you're dealing with me, I don't speak because I know maybe Catholic are going to condemn me to hell for some of the things. Guys, I'm trying, man. I don't speak for the whole church.
You're doing better than trying. You're doing great.
I'm hoping, because I know I'm going to get a lot of, because you guys are going to get Calvinists after me. No, I'm being honest. There's one Calvinist in particular who's going to hate this.
Hey, let's back each other up.
You and me, shoot. They say, yeah, they're all heretics anyway. But it's decreed. I'm just kidding. Okay, coming back to the issue. So, Elohim is Father and Mother. Now, this, I don't know what to ask about the Mother. Okay, I'm not, it's not funny.
Now, if you want to talk about Heavenly Mother, we should, and we can. But the Godhead itself, in terms of this conversation, is the Father, the Son,
because he said Elohim.
Hold on. But do Mormons believe that Heavenly Mother is part of the Godhead?
Yeah, he said Elohim. She's called Elohim.
We believe officially that in Heavenly Mother.
Yes.
And we believe in the Godhead.
Yes.
Now, if the Mother is part of the Father in the Godhead, or people can speculate.
So
that is a number of speculations.
Now, the Heavenly Mother, I don't know how to ask this. Do you come from her womb, spiritual womb?
So remember, there was no spiritual birth. We don't believe in any sort of celestial sex or birthing of spirits. In fact, this is actually kind of interesting. We believe that the spirit of mankind is constantly in adult form. So it was never born as a spirit baby in the premortal existence.
Even when you were an intelligence?
As an intelligence.
So you were still completely rational and...
We had some form of lower intelligence.
Probably
so there was
a
an
level of intelligence.
Okay. So, but you didn't come out of the Heavenly Mother?
No.
Okay. So then let's talk about, because, you can show me because you said that.
But thank you for asking respectfully.
No, because I need to know. I don't want to strawman your position. Now, understand, for us, don't take our reactions because it's shocking and it's going to be weird to us, right? You understand that.
We're very aware that we sound like heretics.
No, I know that because and I'm sure my friends here, they've never heard this. I'm not saying it so you can tell, but I want to represent your position. Not if I say, hey, well, this is what you teach. You go, no, we don't. Then we're going to argue about what, so you articulate. Okay, now that we got the Heavenly Mother.
And just for more context, because they said earlier, you guys also believe that God has a physical body.
Yeah, that's why we were going to get to that.
Okay.
So, but you said, again, if you want to focus on it, that's fine. We'll go to the Godhead. Because you said you believe the apostles taught it.
That's wait. Can you say
the Heavenly Mother, you said it was taught by the apostles?
The modern day apostles, is what you're saying.
That's what you confused.
Right.
Yes.
And you believe it's
all right, back to that. I was going to say where.
Wanted to clarify.
Is Heavenly Mother in the Bible?
Yes.
Not explicitly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So then I don't need to ask you where in the Bible.